Hello all you wonderful people, and welcome back to another episode of Sound Design Lab. I'm your host Hakobo, and today I am pleased to bring you this bass. So I put together a little track. It's not complete by any means, but I've spent a couple days on it to showcase not only this bass, but I also found a new little technique to make some cool intro basses out of the same exact patch, which I'll also be showing you in this video. So let's go ahead and play that. The flame's about to drop. This is how you roll. Cool. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. It's gonna be a lot going on in this patch today, but I'll be sure to go a little bit more in depth on why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. We're gonna go ahead and turn on both our oscillators. And today I just used the basic ward right here and threw that all the way over to the right position on the wavetable. And then on here I used BS2 acid. And then I just left that right there as it is. Or go ahead and knock it up 1 octave, and yes, today this is an FM from B bass. We're gonna turn that level all the way down on the BS2, and just we're gonna be playing the notes E2, and then it's gonna be transitioning to an E flat 2 on the 4th beat of the measure. We're gonna be using detune on these, so let's go ahead and put both of these right here. And I have my first detune on 3, which is like around there. And then my detune on 1 right here. And then we're gonna go ahead and turn off the random on both, which is very important. And then before we start getting into doing our FM from B and our level right here, we're gonna go ahead and make today 3 LFOs, which I know, but they're not too hard. All you're gonna do for the first one is just bring this to the second line right here, right about there, and then just double click anywhere right here to bring this all the way up like that, and that creates this continuous line right here. So if you ever just go right up into this corner, it'll make any knob that you turn as an envelope, which we're going to put it on, it'll be indefinitely turned up past this point instead of like dropping down here, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to leave that on 1/4. Then our second LFO is going to be dragged all the way over here, and then we're just going to drag this down to this line right here, the top of the second box right here in the middle from the bottom. And then that's actually going to be brought down to just a single bar right here and also turned on envelope. And then our third LFO is also very, very simple. It's very like our first one, like this, but instead of being over on this point, we're just going to leave this right here in the middle and also throw that on envelope. And that's it for our LFOs. So as far as our FM from B goes, I'm turning down this level and putting the LFO right here to bring the level in. Then we're going to go ahead and turn on our FM from B, and we're going to go ahead and put that on 40%. And for this sound, you can do from 30 to 50 to get different timbres, but we're going to do for this one 40%, and we're going to put our LFO 1 on it and do 7. And that's so craziness already. The next thing we're gonna do is just turn on a simple filter, and I used a MG Low 6, and all I did was this is the only knob that you're gonna use your LFO 3 for, is just threw this on and Shift Alt click to change it to one direction, and we just threw it on like that, and that's it. That's just to give that initial like change as it comes in. So that's pretty much it. And then we're gonna go ahead and just throw a sub on, direct it out, and turn the level down. And I used the LFO 1 for this, and brought that right there to bring it in with the level. And then we're gonna go ahead and use some noise in this. We're gonna direct it out. And I really like J60 for basses like this. And then we're just simply gonna use our LFO1 to bring that up to around 30, I believe. 30 is correct. So looking over real quick, I believe that's everything for the front page. The only thing that we have left to do is to modulate our fine tuning right here. So we're gonna go ahead and go into LFO2, throw those puppies on. We're gonna shift alt click to bring this down, and then we're just gonna bring this all the way down to 100, and we're gonna go ahead and do that on both fine tunings for both oscillators. And that's gonna give us our really cool falling feeling by tuning it down. So we already have, just from the front page, a cool sound that you can mess with all sorts of stuff. I actually have a lot going on in this sound in terms of effects, so we're gonna go through each and every one of them. We're gonna start with the hyper dimension to add some character, and I'm going to once again just take the LFO1, throw it on the mix, turn down, and we're gonna knock down that rate. So super cool. We're gonna throw on some distortion, which is just asymmetrical, and then just leave it like that. Just gives it a tiny bit of bite. It's not too noticeable, but then we're gonna throw our compressor on and turn our multiband on. We're gonna knock our gain up to about 4. Well, bam. And then we're gonna start messing with the bands right here. And what I did is I turned down the high one to about 86 because I felt there was a little too much going on up there. I wanted a little bit more mid-range, so I knocked this up to about 149, 150, wherever you're, yeah, 149. And then the bottom one's just left at 100. So then I use a phaser and a flanger to add some character. And not only does it add character, but it also really helps round out that low texture that we're looking for. The phasers and flangers can be used to add tons of like low to high gritty timbre depending on what you're looking for. In order to achieve that with the phaser, you just turn down the depth, which you can mess with later, and maybe turn down the feedback. I'd say at about like 20 to 20, like 21's good. And then it's with the frequency that you get to really experiment with the. That's what you really get to mess with your timbre. So in this particular sound, I brought it down to 58 Hertz. Because this range right here helps get really low timbres that are really, really cool. And then I threw on the flanger, and it's kind of the same thing. You turn down your rate, you turn down your depth, and I would also turn down the phase because we're not looking to add any width anywhere. And it's with your feedback right here on this knob, frequency with this knob, feedback with this knob, that you really get to mess with this almost high noise timbre that it adds. And I just threw it on 10%, and you might even like it better without, but it's with the chorus that we're gonna add that's gonna also change it up, and I think it sounds good with the chorus personally. So we turn up the mix, but we're gonna leave it on 50% this time. And we're just gonna throw up our low pass filter because we don't want to cut out any frequency. We're gonna turn down the feedback. I personally like putting the delay to the left and the delay 2 all the way to the right. And then we have this depth that kind of like, that does some cool stuff. And I actually threw my LFO on it. You might like it without it if you're looking for a sharper sound, and it's up to you completely. I threw on my filter just to kind of add a little bit more depth using the resonance to the lower end using a high peak, which is an interesting way to do it. I'm sure there's better ways to do it, but that's just how I did it with this sound. You could probably find a better way to do it, more than likely, but it worked for this sound, which is all I can ask for most of the time. And I actually used the LFO2 to bring the cutoff from 18 Hertz up about 26 right there. And then I knocked up the resonance oh my gosh, whatever, 25 is good enough. And 30% right here for the resonance. And then we're gonna go ahead and put our LFO1 on the frequency after we turn it up to about 46%. And then we go ahead and LFO down about negative 32. Whoops, did not mean to change that knob. Negative 32. So let's hear the difference. It just takes a little bit of the high off, honestly. And the peak does a little bit of work in the mid to low end, which is nice. And then, last but not least, all you need to do is throw some EQ on, and we're just going to put a notch at about 350, 375, around there. EQ is the same, and we're going to knock it down about negative 12. So negative 11.8 is good enough. And then if you wanted to mess a little bit with the lower frequencies, you can turn down the Q to 43 and make a roll off at about 8,000. And that. And then last but not least, just a bit of reverb, which I think on this one I just left it at 20. So. And that's it. You've got your bass, and once again you can mess with the oscillators right here and make all sorts of cool stuff. I know that the squarey ones, like the B-sod square, adds a really cool metallic texture, but this square wave, for whatever reason, just gets you that really cool gritty low end, and I really enjoy it. So the other thing that I wanted to show you was how to make these really cool horn style basses using your patch. Oddly enough, with FM from B, I noticed that if you just knock down the octave, which normally doesn't really work, super low on your lower, with whatever you're FMing to, and then just knock up the octave really high, you get that, whoa, crazy. So then all I did was add a ton of reverb to that, and EQ out parts of it, and it just worked really well. So that's it for this bass. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to getting a webcam pretty soon for my birthday, and using that so you can see my wonderful face, and maybe it adds a little bit more relation. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you feel like liking or subscribing, it helps me a lot, and I do appreciate it. If you want to make a request or give feedback, always feel free to leave a comment. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic day.